There's this Tesla story that seriously stunned me today, and then I'll go through Ark Invest's latest update about Tesla stock. They think Tesla stock is going to $2,000. So let's start with the stunning story first. This Model Y flipped more than 7 times and all the passengers walked away mostly unharmed. It's a bit hard to see the car. It's right here. Pay attention. See? Wow, this is absolutely crazy. Look at that damage. Any other car and you will be going to heaven. Unless you're shorting Tesla stock, then you might not be going to heaven. The car is totaled, and yet the passengers walked away. The driver was avoiding a pedestrian but mishandled her Tesla, resulting in this horrific accident, according to the official police statement released yesterday. I am absolutely stunned that they walked away from this crash. And in China, this is going around with people praising just how safe Teslas are. So this actually is working out in Tesla's favor. I'm just happy that the people inside the vehicle walked away.
The price target that we published for Tesla for 2027 that we're currently updating now, $2,000 per share. In that analysis, we thought that roughly 2/3 of the enterprise value could be attributable to robotaxis. And it's because this is a business that will have recurring revenues, and it will also have margins, we think, that are much higher than the base vehicle business. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to the event in August. I can't wait to see, what other tidbits they unveil. They gave us the app. What are we seeing next? And it feels like, certainly from a software update perspective, that those are actually happening at a faster clip now as well. And Tesla said so. So every couple of weeks, we're getting a meaningful update to full self-driving, or FSD. I feel the difference. So I'm looking forward to that day when, my car becomes a fully autonomous car.
In China, for Tesla, data compliance operations have been limited to Tesla test vehicles, as Tesla has not met Chinese car data security requirements. So I assume that FSD in China is not possible yet for regular customers, even though we did see reports of some people using FSD. Maybe these were just Tesla employees. But we have some good news. The data that has undergone image desensitization processing will be used by Tesla for training FSD models, meaning Tesla is likely going to have a lot more data to train FSD models, accelerating the progress of Tesla's FSD, making more people take FSD when they buy the Tesla vehicle or subscribe to it, making earnings go higher and therefore making the stock go higher. If you like the sound of it, like and subscribe right now. Farzad is testing the latest FSD version, and it's a regression for him. Highway stat has rough slowdowns that he hasn't had before. Lane changes aren't as confident in the city, and at a stop sign it was supposed to go left, but it went right instead. I think James makes sense here. I'm pretty sure these point releases are not going to move the needle further. It has been kind of flat since 12.3.2 based on my observations. We need to wait for 12.4 before seeing another jump in performance, I think. Farzad agrees and almost wonders if these point releases are more for finding exceptions for 0.4 more than anything. I've noticed on some releases that regressions are almost done on purpose. Could be wrong though.
So the news is that Tesla, might have gotten approval in China for full self-driving. So I guess to your point, last year, they didn't have that approval. So, full self-driving right now has really just been active in the US. It doesn't exist in Europe or other markets, including China. This announcement is a big deal because China is very protective of their video data, their mapping data. I think that's why we see Tesla partnering with a local mapping provider, although, of course, it just makes sense. They use Google Maps and other sources here, so why wouldn't they use a local source there? As you know, Sam, and all the work that you've done on electric, like the auto market's something that really matters to China. So to let a foreign player come in on autonomy, I think is something that's, not to be looked over.
I saw this as a rumor yesterday, but now it seems to be confirmed. TCMC says Tesla's next generation Dojo training tile is already in production, according to a report from IEEE Spectrum. According to TCMC, in 2027, its factory plans to offer technology for more complex wafer scale systems than Tesla currently has. They will be able to provide 40 times more computing power than today's systems. The company is turning to advanced packaging technology that allows a single processor to be made from more silicon. 40 times more powerful seems like a pretty big deal. And we also know that these chips are specifically optimized for what Tesla needs. So you can have a generic chip, which supposedly has a lot of power too, but because Dojo is specifically optimized for the things that Tesla needs, it can still be better. Now, the reason why we have not been hearing about Dojo a lot could be one, maybe it's not going as well as Elon hoped it would, or number two, maybe it's going so well that Elon does not want to upset Nvidia and he wants to maintain good relationships between Nvidia and Tesla.
Yeah, and I think, like if I were to create a list of the other automakers and how that, other automakers that are meaningfully far along on autonomy, it'd be a really short list. So in other words, there's like a very long list of potential automakers that can and maybe should partner with Tesla on this technology, because otherwise, how are they going to get access to it? So yes, Ford, they had an internal effort, Argo AI, that's no more. BYD was working with Baidu, and then last year they switched away from that. They said, no, we're going to do some internal features. As you've said, they've said how difficult that this technology can be publicly. Yeah, so I mean, I think any one of those would be a really exciting development. I think while I'm optimistic that other automakers could license this at some point in the future, I think it's just for a traditional automaker to really throw in the towel and say, yeah, I'm not good at technology. I'm gonna look to Tesla. That's a really big deal, and I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if that decision is delayed, if this doesn't have a meaningful impact and Tesla's value over the next 5 years. Although, that's not to say that it's not coming, right?
James replied to this opinion, I don't think car sales matter anymore. FSD is what matters. James says, this is now the default bull opinion, and I strongly disagree. The upside for FSD is much higher, but so is the risk. The current valuation needs auto and energy to perform well and grow too. Sure, if Tesla exceeds expectations in its auto business, the stock will rise, and if it doesn't and actually falls below expectations, the stock will fall. But in the long term, I think most of the value is going to come from FSD and not just from selling cars or selling energy products. Ideally, I would like Tesla to excel in all of these businesses. Tesla doing well in multiple different ventures will reduce the risk to us Tesla stock investors.
Rolling out a robo-taxi network, obviously, it's not as easy as just flipping on a switch and now everyone that has FSD capability can allow their car to go out on the road. So what exactly do you think are some of those hurdles that are not being talked about?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest hurdle really is solving for full autonomy. So I mean, making the car work in enough corner cases such that you can actually take a person out of the front seat. That is by far, the hardest step to cross. And Tesla hasn't gotten there yet. Although we are seeing pretty positive signs. I mean, a lot of the videos that are being posted online for the current versions of FSD show, nearly full drives, in some cases full drives, where the owner's not touching the wheel at all. So I think that if they wanted to, there's certain areas in the US like California where it works really well today, where they could launch. Then, a lot of people might say, well, regulatory hurdles those are a big deal. And not that regulation isn't something to think about. I think it is. It absolutely is. I actually think there's like a skew in how people view the regulation of autonomous cars, because most of the activity has already happened in California, or happened in California first, because this state actually has more hurdles to pass than other states. So, and I'm talking like, okay, well, you get approval to launch a service, then you get approval to charge for a service. You might have to, we've seen Cruise and Waymo do some initial geographic area, then they need approval to expand. I don't think the process will work the same in every state, so I think it could be simpler. And we already do have quite a number of states that have either regulation that doesn't explicitly exclude autonomy, or actually, favors it and has language that is friendly to autonomy. I believe it's about roughly half of states have that. So I actually don't think that regulation is as big of a deal as many make it out to be. I think it's really the technology.
And even on that, I would say it lends itself to Tesla's strength in the amount of data it has and proving that it's statistically significant with respect to being safer than a human.
I agree with Tasha. I think regulatory approvals will not be the main issue. The main issue is solving FSD. A new Morgan Stanley note was just released. They say, we believe Tesla is in the midst of the most profound realignment of priorities and strategy in the company's history. It is understandably confusing given time. It may make sense. I would change that to, it will make sense. The EV industry, in our view, is entering a commoditized dark age, while the AI and robotics industry is entering a renaissance. Tesla's decision-making around what it does less of and what it does more of should be seen through this lens. In our opinion, China has already won the battle for global EV supremacy in its classical form. Yeah, the only company that the Chinese are scared of is Tesla. Tesla has been seriously restructuring with big layoffs, laying off the supercharger team, slowing gigacasting spend. Morgan Stanley writes that in its place, investors should expect to see continued ramping of AI infrastructure spend. Important technological and competitive changes are driving an AI arms race, and Tesla is in the ring. And no, this is not just about Cybercab, which we believe still has significant further room for improvement before commercialization at scale. The intersection of AI, supercomputing, and robotics involves a wide range of markets. Number 4, what we think Elon Musk's recent China visit was and what it wasn't. On the surface, last weekend's China visit was related to the achievement of specific approval of FSD technology on Chinese roads, but FSD in China, assuming it is actually approved and deployed at any material scale in the mainland at all, is not a long-term needle mover in our view. Our understanding of the significance of the visit is in its broader extension of goodwill and cooperation in essential areas of technology and supply chain during heightened sensitivity between the two countries with the TikTok ban and everything. From our global lens, the West cannot address inflation in the auto industry without a significant involvement of China. Moreover, in any of our long-term scenarios of industrialization of EVs, autonomous vehicles, and robotics, there is not a successful one where China does not play a critical role. Number 5, the voting control issue seems to be highly deterministic for Tesla. In our opinion, Tesla's AI potential will remain capped unless and until the voting control issue is resolved. This is extremely problematic for Tesla investors for a number of reasons, including the inability to quantify the impact. But we want to be clear to our readers that as long as the issue of blocking minority remains in limbo, we expect the Tesla share price to be dominated by the more sobering developments within the global EV industry. Based on our discussions, investors are beginning to contemplate the potential for other controlled entities within the Tesla CEO's portfolio that could play a role in the technological, strategic, and structure/legal future of the company. I think if Tesla actually does make the bot possible and viable, sure, Tesla will put its FSD software in the bot, making it smart enough to navigate any kind of surroundings, but it will also need to have intelligence, as in it will need to know how to do other things other than how to go from point A to point B without hitting anything. Like how to cook, how to open a door, how to interact with the world around it. And I think XAI could come in play here.
What does Waymo look like on a utilization basis? And then I have maybe a more narrow edge case or just a potential hurdle.
Yeah, Waymo really doesn't provide transparency into that kind of statistic. But here's the thing that I'd say that's important to know about Waymo. The last update that we got from them is that they have hundreds of vehicles on the road. Now, if you have ride-hail going in 2 separate cities and you have hundreds of vehicles, not thousands, I would guess, that it's actually hard to bootstrap a network because, if you're Uber in New York City, you have, tens of thousands of cars, right? So just on that basis alone, I would say that, it wouldn't surprise me if it was on the lower end. I could imagine that Waymo might have lower utilization than a taxi. But the thing is, we really don't know. Mm-hmm. A taxi in New York City today gets about a 30% utilization rate. The average passenger car, less than 5% of the day. So, we estimate that an autonomous vehicle could get north of 50. I don't think it's a far stretch to say that an autonomous vehicle will be a lot more efficient than a human-driven cab driver today.
And
Yeah.
also, Tasha, adding on to what you're saying, Waymo's not even cheaper than an Uber or Lyft, right?
No.
So it's like you're using it for novelty
Yeah.
and you're not saving money. So you can imagine that if both of those are flipped, then there's the answer on whether or not there will be demand.
I strongly disagree with the $1 per mile cost. Just think about it. Scale is going to happen, and then you're going to have many more robotaxis. It's going to be a lot less than $1 per mile. But of course, for some period of time, it will be $1. But as Tesla produces more robotaxis, it will come down.
On go, I want you to say the year that you think the cyber taxi network launches.
In what type of rollout?
In commercial, it just starts commercially. People are paying for rides.
At
All right.
scale?
No.
No, it starts. This is the launch.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
26.
2025.
Oh, look at that.
Mitch, you're up.
Well,
more optimistic than-
okay, so my
All right, now
well,
a big conversation comes in.
let me clarify. I think you will see maybe even late 25 a rollout in limited scope of the cybercab network in the same way that you have Waymo and SF. I think that's what you'll see, but I don't think you're going to see a national scaled cybercab network until 2030. I think there's a lot of hurdles there to roll it out nationwide. So that's probably where I differ.
Yeah, I think, I mean, sure, certainly like next 5 years for scale, sometime in that time period kind of is what I would expect. I mean, it depends on what you consider scale as well, but I think that's possible. Yeah, I agree with you that it's like Waymo and Cruise have shown us that the minimum viable product seems possible sooner rather than later. I think it will look different than Waymo just because they already have more scale. I mean, it could be nearly, but I think, there's no reason, given that Tesla has decided to do a more dynamic approach to autonomy and that they're, a fully verticalized manufacturer that's prioritizing this, I'm more optimistic for it to look different than those platforms. But
Sam, I think you have to answer this question as well.
In what year I think they commercially launch?
Yes.
I'm going start of 26.
When will the first Tesla paid trip in a Tesla robotaxi take place? A legal trip in a Tesla with no driver. Most people seem to think it's going to happen in 2025. The Wall Street consensus is definitely well beyond 2030. Yeah, Steven guesses it's probably 2042. I am seeing quite a few posts like this. I've talked to 3 Tesla employees now. Each has said morale is really bad right now. Internally, people are not happy. If you think that's bullish, I don't know what to tell you. But you don't work at Tesla for job security and to have people patting you on the back. You work at Tesla to change the world, to solve hard problems, and to have a chance at setting yourself up for life via Tesla through the employee stock purchase plan. It sucks when friends get let go, but they'll either get over it and refocus or they can leave. They should be grateful they are still there instead of crying about how unfair life is. If you think this is somehow going to stop the trajectory Tesla is on, I don't know what to tell you. At Tesla, the goal is not to have a happy work environment, but to get things done, to solve hard problems. Here's some good news. Tesla has reportedly been granted permission to sell automotive emission credits domestically in South Korea by the Ministry of Environment starting this year. And of course, this is going to be all profit pretty much, so this will help Tesla's bottom line. There's going to be less competition for Tesla. Cadillac walks back EV commitment, will sell gas cars past 2030. From source code, we can see that Tesla's voice assistant is coming to Tesla vehicles, Amazon Music, and a few more things. The voice assistant is still in its early stages of development, but will act much like other voice assistants and always be listening for a specific wake word like Alexa. Another feature that's coming will be restricted driver profiles. These will allow owners to add additional restrictions on certain profiles, but the exact details are not disclosed yet. I imagine it would have speed restrictions and things like that, how fast you can accelerate. Tesla could also be eliminating another part soon, the driver's seat occupancy sensor. Probably Tesla can figure out if someone is sitting in the driver's seat with its its camera inside the vehicle. We know that Tesla won a big new Megapack project in Australia. I already reported that earlier. And just now, Tesla held a Megapack installer day at Giga, Texas. Tesla is certainly very serious about expanding the Megapack business. And by the way, with all of these layoffs going on, I think Tesla will still finish the year with over 100,000 employees, which is still a massive number. Some people who have not tried FSD don't get it yet. How is self-driving so desirable when you still have to pay attention to the road? But also, how come is power steering so desirable even though you still need to turn the steering wheel? It's basically the exact same thing in my mind. In some circumstances, driving on FSD is just much more relaxing, and it's only getting better. Here are a few very interesting facts about BYD. It sold 626,000 vehicles in Q1, is the third largest battery maker globally after CATL and LG, and it also supplies some batteries to Tesla. A large handheld devices business, but managed to make only $800 million in profits before tax. So even if we exclude the battery business and the handheld device business, if we assume 100% of the profits came from vehicles, this still implies only $1,277 per vehicle. Tesla made 3.1 times more than that per vehicle sold. Now, the average selling price of a BYD vehicle is going to be lower because they do have cheaper models, but they also have hybrids. It's very roughly about half of their total vehicle sales. And AJ points out that, yeah, it's highly likely they are not making money on BEVs. Only a slight gross margin appears realistic looking at their numbers, unless their hybrids business significantly underperforms or something went horribly wrong in their batteries business. Whoa! Porsche's fully electric Taycan sales dropped 67% almost in Q1 compared to Q4, and it's also significantly down year over year. Now, they did just switch to a new Taycan, so it could be just slow ramp, but it could also be demand issues. We'll know for sure when we get Q2 numbers. And check this out, it's not just Tesla laying people off. Volkswagen Group announced plans to reduce staff size and improve its full year performance as its profit plunged in the first quarter. It will pay severance payments worth about $1 billion to employees who choose to leave early. That's it for today's video. Make sure to click the like button so that we can make sure that there's no shadow ban on this channel. Here's another video from my other channel showing that it's only getting about half of the views it would normally get because my videos are only shown to about 50% of the regular viewers in the first few days. And then after the first 3 days, it does push it out a little bit more, but because it's no longer news, it's old, no one's interested. So I appreciate everyone clicking the like button. That really helps. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Matt Postius, and I will see you back in tomorrow's episode.